In 1968, a scientist built a paradise. Not for people, for mice. Unlimited food. Unlimited clean water. Perfect temperature all year round. No predators. No disease. No weather. No hunger. No danger of any kind. Every need a mouse could possibly have was met, forever, for free. He put 8 healthy mice inside and let them live. What happened next is one of the most disturbing results in the history of science. The population exploded, and then it did something nobody expected. It didn't stabilize. It didn't level off. It collapsed, completely, until every single mouse was dead. Not from starvation, not from illness. There was food in the hoppers the entire time. So what killed them? The answer has haunted scientists for decades, because a lot of people think it's a warning about us. The scientist was John Calhoun, and he called this enclosure Universe 25, the 25th attempt at a very specific question. He built a large metal pen filled with nesting boxes, ramps, and tunnels, with food and water stations that could never run out. It was designed to support thousands of mice comfortably. Nothing could get in. Nothing could go wrong. The only thing the mice would ever run out of was space. Calhoun wasn't trying to be cruel. He was asking a serious question about what happens to a society when every material problem is solved and the only remaining pressure is each other. He dropped in 4 breeding pairs, closed the lid, and started taking notes. At first, it was exactly what you'd expect from paradise. The mice thrived. With no threats and endless food, they bred fast, the population doubling roughly every 2 months. Territories were established, social order formed, mothers raised healthy litters, and the colony boomed. This was the golden age of Universe 25, a growing, healthy, prosperous mouse society with everything it could want. If you'd looked in at this point, you'd have called the experiment a spectacular success. The numbers climbed into the hundreds, then past 1,000. But somewhere in that boom, quietly, the machinery of mouse society had already started to grind against itself. Here's the crucial thing. The mice never ran out of food, water, or even physical room. What they ran out of was roles. In a normal mouse society, a male defends a territory. A female raises young in a defended nest, and the young grow up and leave to claim territory of their own. But in a sealed universe, there was nowhere to leave to. Every good nesting spot was already taken by an established mouse who wasn't going anywhere. So the young adults just stayed, piling up a whole generation of mice with no territory to defend, no status to earn, no purpose in the social structure, surrounded by abundance, with absolutely nothing to do. And that is when things began to break. Calhoun had a name for what happened next: the behavioral sink. Normal mouse behavior started falling apart in every direction at once. Males that should have defended territory became either hyper-aggressive, attacking without cause, or completely withdrawn, refusing to fight at all. Mice crowded into some pens while other pens sat nearly empty. They were drawn to each other in dense, dysfunctional clumps, even when space was available. Violence broke out without the usual triggers, or the usual limits. The invisible rules that had always organized mouse life, who goes where, who does what, who backs down, simply stopped working. The society was still fed. It was just no longer a society. The most disturbing collapse was in the nests. Female mice, under the constant chaos and intrusion, began failing at the one behavior most deeply wired into them. They built careless nests, or none at all. They abandoned pups mid-rearing. Some attacked their own young. Others simply wandered off and left litters to die. Infant mortality in parts of Universe 25 climbed to catastrophic levels. This wasn't caused by hunger. The food never stopped. It was caused by a social environment so broken that even motherhood, the most fundamental instinct in a mammal, could no longer function properly. Once mothering failed, the future of the colony was already gone, even though the pens were still crowded with living mice. And then came the strangest thing Calhoun ever recorded. A new kind of mouse appeared, born into the chaos and never wounded by it, because they never engaged with it at all. They didn't fight. They didn't court. They didn't defend territory or seek mates. They did 3 things only: eat, sleep, and groom themselves, over and over, in the quietest corners of the enclosure. Their fur was flawless. No scars, no bite marks, immaculate. Calhoun called them the beautiful ones. They looked like the healthiest mice in Universe 25, and they were, physically, perfect. But they were socially hollow. They had never learned how to be mice, and they would never, ever reproduce. By this stage, the population had peaked at around 2,200 mice, and then it began to fall. Births slowed, then slowed again. The mice that still could breed mostly didn't. The beautiful ones groomed. The aggressive ones fought. The mothers failed. And the numbers slid downward, month after month, in a room still overflowing with food and water. Calhoun identified a moment he called the death phase, the point after which the colony could not recover, even if you gave it everything. The last conception happened, and after that, not a single mouse was ever born in Universe 25 again. The population simply aged and thinned and ended. Every mouse died in paradise. Here is the part that genuinely unsettles scientists. Calhoun tried rescuing them. Take a few of the surviving mice out of the collapsed colony and put them somewhere spacious and calm, and you might expect them to recover and breed. They didn't. The damage wasn't environmental anymore. It was in the mice. They had grown up without ever learning normal social behavior. How to court, how to raise young, how to hold territory. Those behaviors aren't purely instinctive. They have to develop in a working society. Once a generation grew up without them, the knowledge was simply gone, and no amount of space or food could put it back. The colony didn't die because paradise ran out. It died because society did. Now the honest part, because this experiment gets wildly overclaimed. Calhoun himself framed it as a warning about human overcrowding, and for decades, people have used it to make dramatic predictions about cities and modern life. But mice are not people. Humans build institutions, invent new roles, move, adapt, and create meaning in ways a mouse in a metal pen never could. Serious researchers have also criticized aspects of the study's design and how far its conclusions can stretch. So treat the doomsday version with real caution. What Universe 25 genuinely showed is narrower and honestly more interesting, that for a social animal, having every physical need met is not enough. Abundance alone does not sustain a society. Strip away the hype and one finding stands firm. The mice were never short of food, water, warmth, or safety. What they lost was structure, purpose, roles, a place to matter within the group. And when that went, everything else unraveled. Their aggression, their parenting, their mating, their future. It turns out that for a deeply social creature, belonging and having something to do are not luxuries layered on top of survival. They are part of survival. Universe 25 wasn't a story about too many bodies in too small a box. It was a story about what happens to social animals when there is nothing left for them to be. So the next time someone tells you that solving all our material problems would solve everything, remember the mice who had literally everything and still vanished. Not because paradise failed them, because paradise on its own was never the whole answer. It's a strange, uncomfortable thought to sit with, that a creature can be perfectly fed, perfectly safe, and still quietly stop being able to live. Whether that says anything real about us is genuinely up for debate, and that's exactly what makes it worth thinking about. If unsettling, real experiments like this are your kind of thing, stick around. Ever wondered what else science found out and then wished it hadn't?